We all deal with it differently, but how much stress is too much? Your body will let you know when you're overstressed, with muscle tension, sweaty palms, or difficulty sleeping. You might feel worried, fearful, fatigued, irritable, or have a hard time concentrating. These can be the signs of stress, but the consequences can be much larger, both on your life and those around you. The solution is to keep your stress under control with stress management skills. Mike went through a period of high stress. He was laid off from his job and running out of savings. The financial strain was keeping him up at night. He was irritable and tense and even had digestive problems. At the VA, Mike got help finding ways to manage his stress, such as thinking differently about his problems and making time for hobbies and activities like walking his dog. The physical activity helped Mike relax and be mindful of his stress, and he learned some new problem-solving skills. He focused on potential solutions and not just the problems, even progress like visualizing himself starting a new job. Getting exercise and thinking positively helped Mike get back into the job market. Finding ways to physically relax can be extremely helpful. Joe was feeling detached from his grandkids as his aches and pains were keeping him from keeping up. But since he took relaxation classes at his VA and started doing light physical activity at home, Joe has found that he feels better, both physically and emotionally, and is able to enjoy more time with his family. Relationship problems? We've all had them. George and Vicky's relationship was suffering due to time management-related stresses. Working late, arguing over who would pick up the kids, and spending their only time together in silence. Time constraints led the Johnsons to stop cooking meals, and their new fast food diet took its toll on their wallets and their waists. The Johnsons took a stress management class at the VA and learned that making a plan and sticking to it could ease their stress. They used problem-solving skills to determine who would pick up the kids and make dinner on which days. And in the process, they made time to go on walks together. They learned no matter how challenging life becomes, help is available. To learn more about how to manage stress, talk with your healthcare provider or visit www.
Good evening. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host, Sally Atieno. I am honored to be joined with Lucy Mjomba here today, and we'll be talking about recognizing and resolving stress in children. It's such a crucial topic, and I'm very honored to be a part of it. Welcome.
Thank you, Sally.
So today we'd really like to talk about this topic, and I want to know why is it important to resolve stress in children?
Well, first I want to say hi to everyone who is watching us. Thank you so much for joining us. As she has said, my name is Lucy Mjomba. I'm a counseling psychologist, and it is my pleasure to come into your sitting room, your office, or wherever it is that you're watching us from, and be able to share with you the bit that we have so that we can be able to conquer together in whatever challenges that we are facing. So as you have asked, it is very important to deal with stress in children, because when we grow up and become adults, many times we behave in different manners because of how we were raised, because of the traumas that we may have faced as children. And sometimes we go through such traumatizing events as children, and when they are not resolved right, then they control how we behave as adults. So it is very important for us as parents to recognize when our children are stressed. But apart from that, as an adult, it's important for you to identify some behaviors within you that may relate to what happened to you as a child and be able to get past it. Because many times you find people getting stuck at 5 years old, at 7 years old, because something terrible happened to them at that time. Taking this time, for example, when children have been home for like 6 months, close to 6 months, and we don't even know when they're going back to school yet. Most of the time they'll be in school, but right now they are at home seeing different things. We don't know what it is that they're going through. So they might be getting stresses that are controlling how they think and how they view life, even their own self-image. So it is very, very important, very crucial for any parent to have information about stress and how to manage it in their children.
Assume I'm having a 5-year-old kid, and maybe he or she is going through stress. I'd like to know. Are there like symptoms, like when I'm having a fever, I'm shivering and all. But with stress, how will I be able to recognize it?
Well, you can. And okay, basically, as a parent, we all know our children. Yeah. We know how they behave. We know that my daughter wakes up at this time and they go to sleep at this time. This is how they eat. Yeah. Their behavior will change when they are stressed. And because they are not very good at expressing themselves, they express their frustration through their behavior. You'll find that they will change. They might get clingy. They might increase in terms of tantrums. They might begin to wet their beds, and something that they never used to do, and they begin to do it. They might begin to finger suckle. They start sucking their finger, and they are 7 years old. Yeah. So at that particular time, you realize something is not right with my child. So it is very important for us parents to be observant, be able to know your child. Because again, if you don't know your child too well, you might not be able to recognize what is happening. Yes. And before maybe you ask the next question, I would like to emphasize on the importance of knowing what is going on with our children, because how we raise them basically shapes how they think about the world.
Okay, so
yes,
simply saying we should be cautious of our children's behavioral changes, yeah? That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
That this terms, stress, trauma. Please tell us more about stress and trauma.
Well, I'm going to use very simple words to describe stress. Basically, stress is it's like an emotional turmoil, something that is happening that is causing confusion within a person, and it causes a lot of emotions and anxiety. Yeah. So you find that when our children maybe they are missing something, or they want something, they are stressed, and because they are not aware that they are stressed, they show it by the way they behave. Some will begin to scream, they'll just change in their behavior. So as a parent or as a caregiver, because it's not everyone who is being raised by a parent, as a caregiver, then you might realize that this kid has been sleeping more than normal. Then you need to be able to talk to them, find out what is going on with them. Because many times, especially in the African setup, we've assumed that children's feelings have been ignored. We assume that they are just kids, they'll get over it. But the reality is, those feelings, if they're not dealt with, they can result into something else. Trauma, on the other hand, is a deeply distressing emotional turmoil that is followed, that comes up because of a certain event, like loss of life maybe, like maybe violence, rape. And we've seen in news that nowadays children are being molested, children are being defiled. There's a lot of violence in the homes. A child witnesses their mother being beaten or their father being butchered by a parent or a neighbor or something. That now marks very serious traumas in the mind of a brain. And it might change how this child will behave even as an adult if they are not helped in time.
Oh, okay, so I'd really love to know what are some of the causes of stress and trauma, especially in children.
Well, children face stresses in the same manner that adults do. Because you realize that adults get stressed when something happens in their lives, like a major change happens in their life. The mere fact that a child's life has been disrupted, they are used to waking up in the morning, spending time at school, playing with their friends, and suddenly they are supposed to stay home. That is a major change, and it can be a cause of stress. Another thing that can cause stress in children could be things like maybe lack of resources at home. Maybe they don't have the needs, they cannot meet all the needs that they have. And sometimes we assume that children do not understand what their parents are going through. When a child sees their mother or their father struggle to take care of them, they actually see it. And I've talked to so many people who are very hardworking as adults, and they'll tell you, I was inspired by what happened to me when I was growing up. We went through a lot of poverty. I would see how my mother would struggle. I would see how my father would struggle to take me through school. And that would change then how they think. They would view life in a certain manner because of what is going on. So that is one of the reasons that children can get stressed. Apart from that, it is also how we relate with them as parents. Because as a mother or as a father, I would go home from work and I am tired. And maybe sometimes I'm coming from a place where I have very harsh conditions, maybe at work. So I have a lot of anger within myself. And when I get home, the only outlet I have is my children. So you find that sometimes parents make their children scapegoats of whatever it is that they're going through at work or with their friends or whatever else. So their stresses become a source of anger. A child does something small and they're beaten. They're beaten so seriously that they wonder, why was I beaten? They do not understand. And because, again, we've raised our children in a manner that they cannot confront us even when they are right, then they become so timid and they begin to fear their parents. And now that begins to develop some schemas within them and different thought patterns. So that as adults, that fear still controls how they behave and the decisions that they make.
The other day I was reading and I think I came across a very interesting, was it a paragraph or a quote that said we should learn how to separate our work life as adults, our work life and our home life, in that you will not bring the stresses of your work life in the home so that you don't project it to your kids. Age groups. We have like 8 sets of 12 to 15, 17 to 20, 22, and all that. What are some of the symptoms of stress in such different age groups?
Okay, maybe before I answer that, I'll talk about the quote first.
Yeah.
I like quoting the Bible all the time. The Bible tells us to train up our children in the way they should go, and that they will not forget even when they are old. So many times as parents, we have not assumed the role of actually training up the children. Because when you get home and you've not given enough attention to this child in terms of personal attention, like really just talking to them and understanding what is going on with them, most of the children would say they lack that, then we are not able to instill in them the things that we are supposed to instill in them. Our character is developed as we grow up. And there are things that I wouldn't do as a person, and it's all because of what I was taught by my mother when I was young, or by my father when I was young. It is something that cannot be done in my family. So whatever the society teaches me when I'm 5 years old or 6 years old is something that I will value so much as I grow up, that I will raise my children likely in a similar manner. So when we separate work from like parenting or our home affairs, then we are able to give our children all the time that they need. And we are able to be the kind of parent that can help, can really be there for these children.
Maybe if I throw in a small story, yeah? Back when I used to babysit part-time jobs when I come back home from the university, we used to have a kid that was so stubborn. And we never understood why you so stubborn like this. So we decided, when I say we, my boss and I decided to like have a talk with the kids. The minute we sat down with the kids, each child individually, and we talked to them, and we asked them, by the way, what's your problem? Why do you behave like this? Since that day, we had such a nice session because they were coming for piano classes, and then I had to sit with them before it's their turn to play piano. So once we started talking with the kids, we came to understand that they're all different, and they all had different needs of attention. Because some weren't getting it at home, but found the attention when they came to the babysitting class, so they had to disturb. They're loud because they can't be loud at home. So this is the right place for them to be loud. So they were loud and rowdy. But when we talked to them and we got to understand these kids, we had such nice piano classes. Like, I'd look forward to go to work because these kids are listening to me, other than when the kids were coming in and everyone is coming from a different place with different characters. So having said my short story, that is one solution. Say, talking to them is the first solution. But maybe there's a parent who cannot sit down and talk with the kids. They're not good with talking. What are some of the solutions you can propose for parents who are having such issues with their children?
Well, what you did with those kids was very good, because I believe that energy is never lost and emotions are energy. So if a child is angry and they don't have an outlet, they'll do something. They might beat the cat, or they may just get naughty, and they'll just do so many things. So you'll find that that energy has to go somewhere. That is why even as there's an example that is used a lot in psychology, where as somebody maybe is shouted at work by their boss, because they can't answer the boss back, they go shout at their kid. And because the kid can't shout at the parent, this kid will kick the cat. So the energy will keep flowing until it keeps flowing. So sometimes when children do not have an avenue to express their emotions at home, they do it at school, or they bully other people, or they find a way of letting out those emotions. Before I give solutions, I would like to talk about the symptoms. Like, for example, in toddlers or children that are maybe 6 years and below, one of the ways you'd notice that your child is stressed is if they change their behavior suddenly, as I had said earlier. Some of them would begin to do, maybe by 3 years old, your child stopped wetting their bed. But now they're 7 years old and they're suddenly doing it, and they're doing it frequently. So that is not a reason for a parent to shout at the kid or to call them names. It is a reason for you to talk to that child and find out what is going on with them. Sometimes children are afraid to talk to their parents because there is not that relationship. Sometimes as parents, we are so parental that our sense of authority does not allow us to be friends with our children. So a child will be asked, "Why are you wetting the bed?" And they'll get scared. So they'll not even say what is going on. But if we are able to show our children that we are also human, and we also go through stress, and it is normal to go through stress, then they are able to trust you and talk to them about whatever major change that has happened in their life that is causing them maybe to wet the bed. Others will start sucking fingers. Others will start being clingy like the younger ones. When you're going out to work, previously they would just tell you bye, but now they are really holding on you, and they don't want you to go, and they're crying. Others would increase in the tantrums. People behave differently to stress. Now they're trying to look for your attention, but many times because of a lack of knowledge or understanding, instead of giving that attention that they're seeking, we end up either punishing it, and then when we punish it, instead of helping this kid, they get worse. Others will begin to fear sleeping. When they go to sleep, they'll just say, "I don't want to sleep again. I'm scared of the dark." So it's important for us to talk to them. Others would have nightmares, they would scream, depending on whatever it is that has happened to them. So it is important to talk to them. For the ages that are like between maybe 7, 8 years, the ages that are socializing and playing, you'd find that they would change in how they socialize. A kid who used to play from day to evening would just stay at home. When that happens and this kid is not sick, it is important for a parent to ask questions. What is going on? Why are you changing in terms of this? What happened that caused you to begin to behave in this manner? So it is important for us as parents to observe such behaviors. Then change in appetite. Others will eat excessively to comfort themselves. Others would just lose appetite completely. Yeah? As for the teenagers, you'd find some of them would have negative behavior, like bullying. They'd start picking things, shoplifting, something that they never did before, but now they would begin to do. They're screaming for attention. They want somebody to notice that something is actually happening with them. "I'm here." They're screaming, "I'm here. Look at me. This is what I'm doing because I need to get your attention." So negative behavior, and then withdrawing and change of social life. They had 10 friends, they had 5 friends, now they don't have any friends. So you realize that their behavior is different. Then again, for the teenagers, some of them would be also stress eating. They'd be eating a lot of things, and others would stop eating. Sleeping patterns, and unfortunately right now we are at a society that allows children to have phones, yeah? So instead of sleeping or dealing with their issues, they would hide in social media, and they would be up 2 a.m., 3 a.m., because sometimes as parents, we've just allowed our children to be. So you find that instead of dealing with whatever it is that they are having problems with, they hide in social media. They talk to kids who are in different places, and they're given solutions. Sometimes those solutions don't work, but they are advised wrong. So as parents, it's important to be observant, to be more than just a parent, be a friend to your child. And I'm not saying that we should be so friendly that we do not discipline them, but let your child know that my parent can both discipline me and guide me. Because when I have an issue, I can go back to them, I can talk to them, and they'll be able to understand where I am coming from.
Yeah. I've been nodding my head for the longest time, which means I am getting informed. I hope you at home is being informed more than I am. But you still haven't given us the solutions. Yeah? I know one is being a friend to your kids. But I'm a teenager at this age. I'm like 17. My mother never used to talk to me all this while. And then all of a sudden at 17, you want to start talking to me. Do you think it would be easier for that teenager to open up at that age?
Well, maybe at this moment I'll start for parents who have younger children. They are lucky because they're getting this information on time. It is important to establish that relationship with your child from the very beginning. Talk to them. They listen. They understand. They can relate when you talk to them. Let your child, as a little kid, know that it is safe to talk to my parent. It is safe to talk to my dad. When I have issues and I approach my dad, he will actually listen and give sound advice. For those that are older, it is never too late. We can still establish a relationship with them because relationships are established. And remember, your child, no matter how they are behaving, they still love you. They still love you. And given an opportunity, I don't know how many children would love an opportunity to just relate with their parents as friends. Children would say, I wish I could talk to my dad, you know. But it's okay. If they're not able to, there is that person that they consider maybe a mentor. There is that person in church maybe that they can be able to talk to. There is that person that is an uncle or a godfather, you know. We need to surround our children with people that they can talk to. In case that we are not able to resolve our issues with our children, let us bring people in who are able to help them. Because yeah, it's true. There are many parents who would tell you, I can teach someone else's child about this, especially the teenagers, but I can't bring myself to talk to my own child. So please come, help me. Help me to talk to them about some of these life issues. So yeah, we can always ask for help from people that we trust, of course, people with whom we share the same values. Because when we are raising our children, we are raising them with specific values. Yeah.
As they say out there, it takes a whole community to raise a child. I really hate to come to an end of the show, but here we are. What closing remarks do you have for our lovely viewers out there?
Well, first and foremost, I want to say thank you so much for tuning in. And maybe I would like to just summarize basically everything that we've talked about. We have discussed how important it is to raise our children and being able to be in their lives when they're going through difficult times, because how we raise them defines the kind of thought patterns they have even as adults. Now, in order to be able to raise a sober adult, it's important for us, apart from praying for our children and teaching them the word of God, it is important for us to be in their lives and to be very, very keen on the kind of things that we say to them. A 5-year-old kid who is told that get out of my way because you look like a monkey will not bother. They will forget the next minute. But by the time they get to 7 years old, they'll begin to develop what we call self-image. And they will start remembering the words that they were told. I was told so many times that I look like a monkey. So they'll begin to have a distorted self-image. So every time that we are talking to our children, let us be careful not to distort their self-image. I am a believer in this, that God creates excellence in every single child, in every single individual. So let us empower our children with that fact, that God created them good and they are able to do anything that is in the will of God. So as we talk to our children, let us not impose negative thoughts about them. Let's not talk to them about how big their ears are, or how ugly their hair is, or how terrible their skin is, because all that develops a very negative self-image. Instead, let us empower them. Let us tell them that they are beautiful. Let us tell them they are handsome. Let us tell them they are good looking, so that they can accept that which God gave them. Because everybody was created by God and they were created good. And apart from that, they were given so many gifts that if we don't tell them about it, they may never want to discover those gifts. Yeah? Sure. So as we are raising our children, let us advise them positively. If you are a Christian, read your Bible so that you can direct your child according to the word of God. I see so many times how Muslims have trained their children through madrasa and everything, and they grow up not wavering from that particular faith. But as Christians, sometimes we are challenged. We don't read the Bible ourselves, and we don't have the right sound advice for our children. So let us do our best to train them up, because God has a specific purpose for every individual that comes into this world. It doesn't matter how this child came into this world. You know, let us not label our children. Let us not label them fatherless let us just not give them ugly labels, because these labels end up forming a negative self-image. Now, as they grow up and they have a distorted self-image, they lack confidence. You know, when they have a negative self-image, then they lack confidence. And when they lack confidence, they lack initiative. They will not be confident enough to talk about their ideas. They'll not be confident enough to talk about what they want to do with their lives, which is their right, because God has given them specific. There are kids who would tell you at 5 years old that they know they're going to be a doctor. And they would tell it to you so confidently that you would not argue with them. There are others that would tell you, I'm going to be a news anchor. And I know, because it's something I love, you know. So if we are able to positively affirm them, give them positive affirmations and be able to help them so that they can know that they are able, and that God did not create a person who cannot, but God created somebody who can, with the help of God, of course, and with hard work. As they get into teenage, children want to develop a sense of identity. And because it's a transition period, they are becoming adults. They want to be known for something. That is the time that you design your signature, yeah? And you fill pages and pages and pages trying to make a signature that would make sense to you. And would, a signature says something about you according to what you're thinking at that time. So this child is trying to identify himself. He's trying to make a good solid for who they are. Let us encourage them to do that. Let us give them all the avenues they need to be able to do it well. Because if we confuse them at that time, then they might grow up and they are 20 and they don't even know who they are. They are 25 and they don't even know who they are, which has created a lot of career confusion. You'd find somebody who is 30 years old and they still have no idea why they went to school and did a certain course, you know. But if you are able to allow them at teenage to discover who they are and to really just empower them with the right information so that they can make the right choices, and help them to trust the giftings that they have within, and support them, by the way, because sometimes as parents we impose what we want on our kids. No, you're going to be an engineer. And we insist on them that they will be an engineer. So there's a conflict within them. They're feeling like they are supposed to be a news anchor. They feel like they're supposed to be a minister of the word of God. But somebody is pushing them to become an engineer. So let us allow them to be who God created them to be. As for the youth, the major challenge among the youth is relationships. They're going through a lot of confusion. They've had heartbreaks. They've moved from one relationship to another. They're looking for a good spouse. You know, they are under pressure to settle down when they're at 26, 27. They're under pressure. And we adults instead of helping them, we tell them, harusi yako ni lini? And we keep telling them, when are you calling us for the pilau? When are you calling? So we give them pressure. And you find that they need somebody to talk to. They need to find themselves and know what it is that they will need and what they are looking for. And we need to keep guiding them back to God, because if we are able to establish a personal relationship with God, then we are able to be directed right. Yes.
Wow. I've come with so much, but I don't know if this Swahili saying will make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Samaki mkunje.
Akiwa mbichi.
Exactly. So one thing that I am sure I will go home with is as I'm laying the foundation to my house and expecting it to be big and beautiful, my foundation should be made of concrete, stone, and cement. Yeah? The same way like when we are raising our kids and expect them to be the most powerful kids in the society, or the type of kids we all admire to have, we should go back and check our foundation. Was our foundation good or bad? And if it was bad, how can we correct it at this age? I'm really honored to be a part of this. I am so grateful you took time and shared with us this wisdom today. And for our viewers, I am so grateful for you taking your time to listen to us and just learning. Very honored. Lucy?
Okay. Well,
so
thank you so much. As we close, I would like to really just say thank you so much for watching. And I want to encourage each one of you to really just reach out. When you feel you're overwhelmed, it is okay to reach out. It's okay to seek help, because help is actually available. And for our children, sometimes when our children go through difficult times like defilement, things like loss of a relative, let us not assume that they are okay. Let us give children room to grieve the pain that they are going through. Because by so doing, we are helping them to be able to express their emotions and find new ground for them to be able to move on. Let us not assume that our children do not understand when there is violence in our homes. Let us not assume that. Let us be very careful to help our children deal with whatever stresses and frustrations that they are going through. When your child comes to you and asks you something that is very sensitive and they have seen within the home, let us not push them away. Let us talk to them. Let us listen to their opinions and validate their feelings, and let them know that they have a safe place to come back to. They have a safe place in their parents. They have a safe place in your heart as a parent, and there is help out there so that they can be able to be helped and they can be able to move on. Otherwise, we are so very, very grateful. Thank you so much, Sally, for being here. And I want to thank everyone who really tuned in. And I want to thank St. John's Buxton for allowing us to do this here. And we want to pray that God will help us to continue empowering one another. Please send in your questions so that we can be able to tackle whatever issues come up in the next show. We are looking forward to speaking to you again. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Reach out at Skyline, CPD, all social medias. Thank you and good evening.
We all know what it's like to feel stressed, and we all deal with it differently. But how much stress is too much? Your body will let you know when you're overstressed, with muscle tension, sweaty palms, or difficulty sleeping. You might feel worried, fearful, fatigued, irritable, or have a hard time concentrating. These can be the signs of stress, but the consequences can be much larger. Both